I wasn't supposed to grow up fast, but life rarely asks permission. My name is Dorothy Mae Carter, and I'm 72 now, living in a quiet little cabin tucked into the hills of Tennessee. People who meet me today see a calm old woman who spends her afternoons sipping tea on the porch, watching the wind carry the leaves. They don't imagine the storm I walked through to get here. They don't imagine the girl I used to be. I was born in a tiny Kentucky settlement that barely made it into the county records. Pine Hollow. Dirt roads, wood smoke mornings, houses that creaked with every breath of wind. My mother, Emma, was gentle in a way that made you feel safe just by standing next to her. Her warm hands could fix anything: torn shirts, skinned knees, broken spirits. My father, though, he was a man carved out of stricter material. Quick to anger, quicker to drink. The kind of man people stepped aside for rather than greet. We lived in a cramped two-room house, little more than wood nailed together. But it was home, and before things fell apart, home was enough. My mornings began before sunrise, fetching water, tending my younger brothers, helping Mama knead dough while she hummed songs she learned from her grandmother. School was a blessing, even if it meant walking nearly an hour each way. Books were the only place I felt truly free. But when I turned 12, I realized childhood had an expiration date. Father's temper worsened. Mama's cough grew harsher. Money disappeared faster than he could gamble it. Neighbors heard the shouting, but kept their doors shut. In those days, folks believed family business stayed inside family walls, even when those walls shook. By the time Mama passed away, I had already learned how to hide bruises and fears. Her death hollowed out the little softness left in our home. Father's drinking sharpened into something darker. And slowly, I began to understand that I wasn't just his daughter anymore. I was becoming a bargaining chip in a life he'd ruined. The night everything changed, I heard men talking on our porch. One of them had a voice that didn't bend. People whispered his name like a warning. Mr. Harlan Wade, the wealthiest landowner for miles. I didn't need to see his face to feel the danger in the air. I listened, and with every word, my world cracked. My father had debts, big ones, debts he couldn't pay. And the price he offered instead was me. Before you think you know where this story goes, wait until you hear what happened the day Mr. Wade arrived at our door.
Mr. Harlan Wade didn't come himself the next day, not at first. Two of his ranch riders showed up instead, casting long shadows across our yard as if they owned the sun. Their boots were coated with the gray dust of the long trail from Wade's estate, and the way they looked at me made my stomach twist. I was 16, but in their eyes, I was already something else, something chosen. Father didn't meet my gaze when he told me to put on my Sunday dress, Mama's old blue one that still smelled faintly of rosemary. My brothers watched with confusion, not understanding what the dress meant, what the silence meant, what my trembling hands meant. I hugged them both tightly, trying not to cry. I didn't want to scare them. I didn't want to accept what was happening either. The ride to the Wade property felt like a funeral procession for the life I had dreamed of. Forests turned into open fields into carefully fenced pastures. Everything grew cleaner, richer, larger the closer we got. Mr. Wade's house rose from a hill like a judge's bench, white pillars, polished stone steps, windows that reflected the sky as if they owned it. The housekeeper, Mrs. Langley, met us at the door. Stern-faced, sharp-eyed, and stiff as a board. She looked me over as if she were inspecting a horse, not a girl. "Follow me," she said, her voice tight and businesslike. No comfort, no kindness. My room was small but tidy, far too tidy for someone like me. Fresh sheets, a basin, one narrow window facing the back fields. It looked less like a bedroom and more like a holding pen. "Mr. Wade expects you after supper," Mrs. Langley said, before disappearing down the hall. I sat on the bed, clutching the edge so hard my knuckles blanched. The room felt too quiet, too controlled. I felt like the walls were listening. And that evening, I saw him for the first time up close. Harlan Wade was older than I expected, late 50s, maybe early 60s, but there was nothing fragile about him. His posture was rigid, his expression carved from stone, and his voice, smooth but dangerous, gave away exactly why people feared him. When his eyes landed on me, I felt pinned to the floor. "You'll have work during the day," he said calmly, as if talking about the weather, "but your company will be required in the evenings." Not asked, not requested, required. I swallowed hard. I didn't have the courage to look up again. But what I didn't know that night, what no one could have warned me about, was that my first evening in that house would be the gentlest one I would ever have there.
The first few nights in Harlan Wade's estate were a strange kind of quiet. Quiet, like the stillness before a storm. He didn't touch me at first. Instead, he asked questions, studying me with unsettling patience. He wanted to know where I grew up, what chores I could do, whether I could cook or sew. I answered carefully, my voice trembling each time his gaze lingered too long. He offered me sweet drinks I had never tasted before, amber-colored, burning tongue strong, but I refused them whenever I could. I wanted my mind clear, my thoughts sharp. Something about his calm politeness felt like a trap laid out very neatly, waiting for me to step into it. During the day, I worked with the household staff, sweeping, scrubbing, helping in the kitchen. They didn't treat me cruelly, but most avoided eye contact, as if acknowledging me would draw Mr. Wade's attention onto them. The ranch hands were worse. Their stares felt heavy, too curious, too aware. I learned to keep my head down. But on the fourth night, the storm finally broke. Mr. Wade had been drinking more than usual, and when he called me into his study, there was no gentleness left in his voice. His face was red, his words thick. Something in his eyes told me that whatever patience he showed before had only been temporary. "Come here," he said, patting the arm of his chair. "No need to be shy anymore. You know why you're here." I froze. My breath caught in my throat. But before I could respond, he grabbed my wrist and pulled me closer. His grip was firm, confident, like someone picking up something they already owned. The rest of that night is a blur of fear and shame, the kind of memory that clings to the bones. When it was over, he dismissed me with the same indifference someone might show a servant who spilled water. I stumbled back to my room, holding myself tightly just to keep from breaking apart completely. For weeks, that became my life. Work by daylight, humiliation by nightfall. Each evening, I prayed he would drink enough to fall asleep before calling for me. On the nights he didn't, I learned to disappear inside my mind, counting breaths, focusing on the cracks in the ceiling, anything to detach from the reality I was trapped in. And yet, in the bleakness of that routine, a single lifeline appeared. A woman named Miss Clara, who visited once a week to cook special dishes for the estate, noticed the change in me, the way I limped, the way I flinched, the way the spark in my eyes had dimmed. One afternoon, while no one watched, she pressed a small cloth pouch into my palm. "For protection," she whispered. "You'll need it sooner than you think." What Miss Clara gave me didn't just protect me, it became the first step toward the most dangerous decision of my life.
Miss Clara's little pouch wasn't magic, not in the storybook sense. It held dried herbs, bitter-smelling roots and leaves she said would keep a man from planting trouble where it wasn't wanted. I didn't fully understand her words, but I understood enough. She was trying to save me from carrying a child born of misery. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of control. But life inside that mansion didn't ease. If anything, it tightened around me. Mr. Wade became more unpredictable. Some nights, he ignored me entirely. Other nights, he was crueler, demanding, drunk on power and whiskey. The ranch hands watched me with hungry curiosity as if waiting for their own chance. I felt myself shrinking, smaller, quieter, more invisible with each passing day. Then came the moment that changed everything. One evening, Mr. Wade invited a guest to the estate, a local official named Sheriff Colton Briggs, a man with eyes like polished coins and a smile that never reached them. During dinner, they spoke about land deals and political favors, but every few minutes, the sheriff's gaze drifted toward me, slow, calculating, like someone appraising livestock. At one point, I carried a tray past the table and overheard him murmur, "She's a pretty one, Harlan. You planning to keep her forever?" Mr. Wade laughed, a cold, sharp sound. "Everything I have is negotiable." My stomach twisted. I hurried back to the kitchen before my knees gave out. That night, when I was sweeping the hallway, I overheard them again, this time behind the study door. The sheriff's voice, "Name a price, Harlan." "Mr. Wade, she's worth more than you think." They were bargaining for me, like two men haggling over a horse. Fear sharpened into something else inside me, not just terror, but defiance. I couldn't survive being passed from one monster to another. I had barely survived the first. Miss Claire visited again 2 days later. She took one look at my face and knew something had shifted. "Child," she said quietly, "there are times when escaping isn't about running. Sometimes it's about outsmarting the trap." I didn't have a full plan yet, but I had determination. I had the herbs. I had desperation, which sometimes is more dangerous than any weapon. And fate, or maybe something kinder, handed me the final piece. While cleaning Mr. Wade's office one afternoon, I noticed the drawer of his desk wasn't closed all the way. Inside, beneath a stack of documents and a velvet pouch, lay a small revolver. Simple, old, but loaded. I closed the drawer slowly, pretending I hadn't seen it. But my heart was pounding with a new, terrifying thought. For the first time, I didn't feel helpless. I felt armed. But having a weapon is one thing. Knowing when to use it is another. And soon, everything would depend on that choice.
The moment I saw the revolver, a seed planted itself in my mind. Quiet, but persistent. I didn't touch it. I didn't even lean closer. But for the first time since being dragged into that house, escape felt like something real instead of a distant fantasy. I didn't take the gun right away. Fear kept my hands still. What if he noticed? What if someone saw? What if it made my situation worse? But as days passed and the sheriff's visits grew more frequent, my window of safety shrank. His greeting changed from polite nods to lingering touches on my arm. And every time he did it, Mr. Wade watched with a smug smirk, as if warming up a trade. One evening, while delivering coffee to the study, I heard the words that sealed my fate. "We'll finalize the arrangement next week," Mr. Wade said. "She'll be ready to go." The sheriff chuckled. "Good. I've been waiting to get my hands on her." I didn't wait to hear more. I slipped out before they noticed me, my breath shaking. I remember standing in the hallway, the walls closing in, realizing with absolute clarity that if I left this house in that man's carriage, I wouldn't live long enough to see another sunrise. Not the way I wanted to live, anyway. That night, I made my choice. When the house fell quiet and the moon painted pale light across the floorboards, I crept toward the study, with my heart beating so loudly I feared it would wake the walls. The drawer slid open easily. The revolver felt heavier than I imagined, cold enough to steal the warmth from my fingers. I wasn't a killer. I wasn't even brave, just desperate. But desperation can push a person past the limits of fear. I hid the gun beneath the loose plank under my bed. Then I waited. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. 2 nights later, Mr. Wade stumbled into my room, his steps uneven, his breath thick with whiskey. Something in his expression was different, meaner, wilder. He grabbed my hair, yanking me upright, muttering about one last night before the handoff. Something inside me snapped. I didn't think, I acted. My fingers found the revolver without searching. The click of the hammer lifting filled the small room like thunder. Mr. Wade froze, his grip loosening. For the first time, he saw me. Not the quiet girl he owned, but someone who had reached the end of her rope. I'm not going with him, and I'm not staying here. His eyes narrowed. He took a step toward me. I fired. The blast echoed through the hallway, followed by a heavy, final silence. But pulling the trigger wasn't the end. It was the beginning, because the sheriff, the staff, and the entire town would soon come looking for answers, and for me.